Okay, hello, welcome to the jury of Triumph Azerbaijan. Tonight we are doing our jury roundtable where you guys are going to talk about the final three, give your thoughts, kind of share what you think about each of their games. We'll go through each of the aspects of Survivor, strategic, social, physical. If you don't want to do physical, you don't have to. Some people don't like to talk about it unless like it's really important, but we'll go through all three. And you guys just kind of go through each of the three players in the final three and talk about those aspects of their games and what you experienced and what you think of them. One rule I said earlier, but I'll say again on the recording, make sure to keep it as much about the finalists as you can. It's really easy to get sidetracked. You say, hey, I made this move with Tamara or Catherine, and then you start talking about your moves, and then you start talking about why'd you fuck me over, Brian, and why'd you vote me out, Jason. So, I'll let you guys do that if you go into it, but if you get too off track, I'll just guide you back so that we're talking about the finalists. What we're not going to do is be assholes. We're not going to talk about them personally. We're not going to say, fuck them, they're a bitch, they're a cunt. You can call me those names if you want, I don't care. But what we're not going to do is personally insult them. We can say, I think their game sucked, or I think this move was really bad, or I think they made a dumb decision there, but we're not going to like call them dumb or stupid or bad as people, right? Makes sense. So just keep track of that. Be sure, to check yourself if you find yourself getting too heated at any point. I think the two rules: don't be jerks, don't get off track. I don't think there's any other rules. Are there any other rules that I should say? No, I think that's good enough. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I'll let you guys get started. First, I'll let you guys pick which one you want to do. So do you want to talk about social game, strategic game, or physical game first?
Let's get physical out of the way.
Good idea.
Alrighty, let's talk about physical games. So Alex, Catherine, and Tamara, you guys can start with whoever you want. Give comments when you're done with one person, move to the next. And again, just like don't talk over each other. So physical game, go ahead.
So Alex wins this.
I think
Yeah.
Alex came in dead last in how many challenges? Like it was a running joke. Like, don't get me wrong, like he killed the endurance, but what else?
I will say the one challenge performance by Alex and the touchy subjects, that is the only one that I'm like, what were you doing there? Like, why didn't you read? You didn't know any of them. So I'm curious if that was like intentional. I don't think it was, but I'd be curious to see why he thinks he didn't have the correct reads on those.
Yeah, I think there's probably something to be said for Alex's physical game in terms of like, and obviously Jason and Esteban can probably speak to this a little bit better, but like, was there thought in voting out Caitlin or Tyler first because they would be less, like not as good as at comps, or was it more his social game that kind of kept him around?
Go ahead, Esteban.
I wanted Alex out first, but then somebody told me that we need to keep him. Maybe that goes with the social game, because I don't think that he's really like very physical when it comes to challenges. But I will give him a point on that endurance again, because he also lasted 30 minutes with Ryan and I. So he tried, but I bet that one of the part of the game of Tamara also is that keeping Lilo. I know he can do better. She can do better than that, but she just don't need it, I guess. So that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, Tamara was really consistent at, like, she was never really a liability in comps, but she also like never really stood out or like made herself a threat by being too good at comps.
Yeah. So I wanted Esteban to like go ahead and have that conversation, because Esteban did tell me like multiple times, like we have to get rid of Alex. So like that, like, and I'll speak more to that as far as social when we get there for Alex. But like as far as comp things, I agree with everything that's been said.
So I feel like I can speak a little bit to some of the stuff, but then other stuff I'm thinking about it and there's some merit to what's being said. So Alex and my schedules really didn't work very well for a lot of live challenges that happened this game. And I will say that a good chunk of some of the challenges happened while he was at work. And so I don't know if that played a factor into some of the performances, obviously not into things like the slide puzzle or his part of the puzzle, which he did on his own time when he was not at work. So, not the best puzzler in the world, but I also feel like some of the issues that he ran into, he literally could not participate in a challenge because he was at work. The skull game or whatever, he literally could not participate. So he basically did whatever so he could get to work, which I can't really fault him for things like that, because when he was present, I mean, sure, he didn't do so well in the touchy subjects, but later on when it was what was the two truths and the lie, he was, none of us did stellar on that one, and he was right up there with us. So I think some of his performance had to do with the fact that he was at work, and I'm not going to fault him for that. And when he was present in the challenges he had to win, he was present for them. So I want to say Tamara did surprisingly better at challenges than I thought she would, even though she didn't necessarily pull out an individual win this season.
True, I believe on that one too. Like, to compare, I mean, we're comparing the three, and because all the physicals are here already. So if it's the three of them, basically, okay, I hate you, David. Basically, it goes with Tamara and Alex, but having Alex to win on the immunity, that shows like we basically need to give a point for that for Alex, because like, even if Tamara was capable enough, he just didn't do it at all. So that is her loss of trying to be strategic, because if we go on the physical thing or part, so it's Alex.
Yeah, the way I kind of feel about this portion of the game is I don't think the reason that any of the three of them that are currently there got there because of their physical games. I don't think that was a strength. So it's like, yes, Alex did win one while the other didn't win any, but at least for me, like, I'm probably not going to factor physical as much because it wasn't a big part of, at least to what it seems. Maybe someone will have thrown all these comps and that'll be a big part, but it seems that that's not really a big part of any of the three finalists here.
I mean, like you said, Brian, all of the other individual immunity wins are all sitting on this camera right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and Alex won Final Four after everyone else was gone, essentially. Right. Like, so it's one of those things for me. Like, I totally 100% agree with you. Like, this point on physical is moot for me because, like, they weren't all great at comps, period. I mean, come on, to have the conversation of, I'm going to be really good at this and then take 60 minutes doesn't fly for me. So, like, yeah. I don't think anybody of this three were exceptional at anything. So, if physically or challenge wise,
not a big one, but there still be a point for this. There will still always be a percentage, because if we're gonna go with the total later on, and if there will be a tie, 80%, 80%, we still gonna go back to think who will be the physical. I'm just saying that this is not a big chunk of it, but this will always be a part of it. I'm going to form more. Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other comments on physical games?
Oh, and Kat always thought that she's really good. She's always good on all those games, but still it's not, it's not connecting. Maybe of time to or whatsoever, I don't know. And that's not my words. It's from her, right? It's from her. So you could attest to that. She always said that she's really good in puzzles. She's good at these cop things and all those stuffs. And then it didn't came through. So.
Yeah, she was definitely the queen of overselling and under-delivering.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Damn Cat.
Any final comments on physical game? Also, Jason, when did you win immunity?
In the Azerbaijan trivia, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
me.
The swap one.
Oh, the trivia. I wasn't there. I think I was gone for like 3 days.
I did win an immunity this season with Steve. Thank you.
Oh my God. See, yeah, I don't have like the charts with everything on it, like the voting charts and shit. If you ask me who voted for who, I can't even tell you. Ollie has all that shit and I don't even look at it and I don't know why. Yes, and Jason has one as well. So yes, all of the other immunity wins besides Andrew are in this call. All of you on this call had at least one win. So woo. But physical game aside, let's go to social game next, since it was brought up a little bit. So whoever wants to start with whichever finalist, and we'll talk about social game.
I mean, I think I immediately think about Alex's social game because I feel like, you know, he did have a tricky situation needing to survive, being swap screwed. He certainly was very good at like I think I came to find out in the game that like he was very good at making me feel like he wanted to work with me and he wanted to find roads in with me. And I think he was really good at doing that with kind of everybody. Like it was a really on point social game where, you know, you kind of find out later or realize like, okay, this doesn't fully add up. But yeah, I feel like his social game in particular, I feel like was like I feel like his biggest strength was his social game.
If I can jump in here to just like tie the loose end of what Esteban said earlier, and then to pull in what David just said about the swap. I want to put this in perspective is that Caitlin knew about my idol because she knew where it was from the Sahin tribe. So she confronted me about said idol. And that was one of the reasons why I pushed for Caitlin to go straight away versus Alex. Alex didn't seem like he knew where he was at per se in that group. Like, so he knew that Tyler knew about the, like his Caitlin told Tyler. So again, those two immediately became targets on my radar versus Alex because of the confrontational nature of Caitlin and Tyler coming at me about those idols. And if there was going to be an opportunity to possibly swap out without that knowledge getting out, I was going to try to eliminate those threats straight away. So, and then also, and then I'll be quiet here about Alex's game. If you guys remember when I got voted out, I asked him for a breakout room. And I asked him for that breakout room because I thought that if I had a shot, I thought Alex was the shot. So I felt like I had social capital with Alex in that space, hence why I asked him for that breakout room. So he made me feel good enough to be able to ask him for that. So again, for what I saw in terms of social game, I felt Alex of, you know, his strength, again, to echo, was his strength. No, like hands down from what I saw.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that one too, like I mean, during the swap, it is always been Alex is my target because I know he, based on my observation, can do really well when it comes to social game, and he did. He got penetrated. Kat will never vote her because she's like very close to Kat. She penetrated Tamara and also Jason, who were able to convince me to always like say, to save Alex. No, I'm sorry. Penetrated is a good word, right? Sorry. Like convinced. Let's call it. Now I'm so conscious. But
That is not the word I would use to describe that word.
all right. I don't know another word for that thing. But yeah, I mean, based on that swap itself, he convinced 3 people to save him and to be really get connected with him. So that is really a very good, like, you know, social game, and thinking that he was able to still get connected to you, Sahin. That's really a big thing. And that is what I thought on the game when I wanted Alex out, and he really came through with that one. So blame it all to Jason. Just kidding.
Since we seem to be on Alex, I'll just go on Alex. Like on the OG Sahin tribe, I felt that Alex had probably one of the weaker social games. I don't think he was very connected. I don't think he was a part of very much. He was someone that on OG Sahin, I was down to vote out. Like if we would have lost a few more, he would have been someone definitely on the table. And he didn't make that many strong connections in that sense, really. I never felt really close to him socially. So I definitely think he did good work on Sahin, but I think when he swapped onto Canavar, but on Sahin at least, he really did seem to struggle in the beginning with the social part.
But did the swap though, like make him step his pussy up in that space, right? To be like, was that the wake up call that Alex needed to like light the fire under his ass for a social game? If he felt like he needed additional connections, if he survived to get back to the merge. So sorry, Malkin, I did not mean to cut you off. Sorry.
That's okay. I'd like to play devil's advocate to that just a smidgen, because I think there are some merits to what Brian is saying. I also feel like I had a different experience with Alex because he was the first person to offer to call me in the game. Sorry, I'm also driving right now. So he was the first person to offer to call me in the game, and we talked for over 2 hours on night 1. And I learned a lot about him. He learned a lot about me. We spent so much time covering some really deep topics. So like, it was something that made me feel instantly connected to him. So even though Brian was fine to cut him, I was not fine to cut Alex. And I did things to intentionally try to keep him in, even when he didn't necessarily go with what the group wanted. Like, he doesn't have a problem being confrontational, but what I really think is really cool about Alex is he knows when to dial it back. And that's something I've really respected about his social game, because I also talked with him a lot about how Canavar went on the swap drive. And so I have a fresh perspective on how I feel like he played. He understood that Caitlyn was getting in group chats. Caitlyn was being the person who was out in front. She was naturally going to be a threat. So he dialed it back and let her do that. And then when Tyler went off the deep end, the next round, he recognized, okay, being confrontational right now is not going to get me to the swap. So I'm literally going to play dead fish in order to get to the next part. So social, and then at the merge, he just kind of tuned it up. He went right back, and he was everyone felt like they needed him for a vote. He played the middle pretty damn well. And, you know, of the Saheens, he is the one sitting at the end with cross alliance that actually got him to the end. So I have a lot of respect for Alex's social game. I also think that he was just connected with different people and probably saw you as a threat, Brian, so he probably didn't want to connect with you as much. Love you, buddy. I had to really force that connection at merge because I was like, you two need to talk right now or this isn't going anywhere. So it's one of those things where, like, you know, Alex didn't, you know, he needed a little bit of assurance, feel comfortable or confident with someone. But I do have a lot of respect for his social game because it gave him a lot of opportunities that, like, I didn't necessarily have. So, and I think he did a pretty good job.
So do we think that, like, Alex staying on Saheen, did you guys kind of on Canavar, did you guys kind of know he was on the bottom of Saheen, like outside of the vote that we had gone to right before the swap? Like, was that a big part of the reason too, or was it genuinely he created a social bond with Kat or Tamara or you?
He mentioned that he did not feel like part of the main group in Saheen, which again, he created that opportunity for the crack for like us to like for me to try to convince Esteban, which I did, right? Like to be like, I think if we have a shot at flipping somebody, it was Alex. Like he convinced me that if we had a shot at flipping somebody, it was going to be him.
Mm-hmm.
And he played that position well, like, because we thought, like, the old Canavar thought that he will vote with us on the first two, votes on the merge.
Mm-hmm.
So he played that well on us and on both sides.
I guess I can chime in real quick. I freaking love Alex. I think Alex is one of the, you know, better people that I've spoken to in this entire game. And that, like, that's not against anybody here. I just really enjoy speaking with Alex. He cracks me up. But I don't know if it was specifically that he didn't want to work with me, but he gave me nothing as far as a personal connection, as far as telling me about his family, as far as anything like that goes. We were able to talk, you know, basically like, how's your day? What's going on? He would tell me every time that, you know, if once you get past, I talk with my hands and I speak really loud and fast, like that's all of who I am. And so I truly get to where I feel like that really might be all of who Alex really is, except for playing dead fish. And so like, that is my entire hesitation on voting for Alex. It's just like, I guess it's, I want to know that there was a strategy and not just sitting back and waiting for on somebody else to have the target on them. Like I just,
but But Steve, like, can't that be said for all three of them?
100%.
Like-
100%.
Like, can't all of them be said like they were sitting around waiting for an Esteban to say something, or me to say something, or Dave to say something, like before they made any sort of decision? Like, it never was committal. And you guys were all like, Jason's calling the shots on Canavar, like, because guess what? Though, like, the other two would never put a name out there, period. Like, the only one that ever did was Kat, and that was on the swap. And then after that, she clammed up and didn't say a word, which, you know, is rare for Kat. But like, keeping it 100, she only threw out names in the swap. That's the only time that she ever threw out names, other than yours, Steve, when she left the chat.
Yeah, that doesn't shock me. But no, like that's my entire hesitation on all three, really, as far as I'm not sure what any of them did except for ride coattails and just keep their mouths shut. And so like, that's where I have a hard time. Like, if Brian made it to the end, Brian had my vote. Actually, I can tell if any one of you guys on this chat made it to the end, you would have had my vote over the other ones. And I'm not talking, you know, crap on their game, because like, they played a fantastic game. It's just not the game that I personally like, or I personally respect.
Yeah.
And so like, that's where my struggle is right now, is I feel like I'm choosing between three people that I have no idea what your game was. Like, what was it? And so do I vote who I like more? That's Alex, because I know him longer. Do I vote who I think played the more aggressive game? That's Tamara. Like, I don't know what to value here. And so like that, I'm really trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, it's hard to see what the active, like, looking towards like, okay, what is the active decision you made, or the active driving force that any of the three made to get them to the end? And it is more like the active thing is like not is being there, is being around and being able to be there. Yeah. And it's like their social games all like contributed partially to being there. I mean, I think Tamara's social game like contributed to her being a part of a, you know, 2 cross tribal alliances that kept her safe through a lot of merge. And then Kat's social game kind of kept her in a similar side to Alex, like kind of like she was at least keeping up okay enough relationships with people on the other side, where like Alex wasn't trying to vote Kat out, or I think, or feeling as threatened by Kat, I guess. But yeah, it's tough to see, especially, I mean, it's like physical game and social game. It's really hard to see where the version of that got them to the end.
Exactly. That's where my struggle is.
I will say, comparing like Tamara and Alex's social game, I like feel pretty strongly that I think Tamara like kind of killed the social part compared to the other two. Because I feel like Alex, he was kind of messed up a little bit. While he obviously still made connections on OG Sahim, but he was definitely not in one of the better positions socially, was on the outs of the tribe. And then kind of fell into the position at the swap where it's like, hey, I'm on the bottom of Saheen. Obviously, you guys are going to keep me as the one that survives. Whereas Tamara, I feel like she was, from what, at least I wasn't there, but from what I heard, she was socially like integrated on both tribes. Her name was never even an option. Whereas I feel like Alex more fell into his position, not on purpose. Like Tamara had more intention, is what I viewed it as.
Yeah,
so
I think that's accurate.
On night, like whenever we merged, Tamara was actually one of the very first people that called me after the merge. And I seen glimpses of a very smart player that was kind of trying to, feed herself, but not give too much information. And so on night 1, I seen more out of Tamara's teeny tiny game than I did out of Alex's entire strategy type of thing. And I have no relationship with Kat. Like, that's not going to shock anybody at all. And so like, I can base my entire judgment on Tamara off of a 30-minute phone call where we didn't know each other at all. Or I can base it around Alex, who we got along, but I don't really feel like he ever played with me or played in general. And so I that's where my struggle's at right now with who I'm voting for.
So yeah, I mean, jumping off to Tamara, I really thought the first game, day 1, that we were really very, very good with Tamara. That's why I'm pretty kind of really hurt, like how we end on voting me off. Because like, we've been discussing all the games and all the votes in pre-merge. It is the 2 of us who is deciding which side we're gonna go. For example, we have the two of us has an alliance with Anthony, and the two of us as an alliance with Alfie. So this group, Dave, Jason, and Kath, is just thinking which one we want to vote it out. Like, is either Anthony or Alfie. And it is the two of us who like, so who are we gonna cut off? So we decided with Anthony. Like, and then after that, we decided with Alfie. And like, we are like thinking if we wanted to go with Alfie to vote Jason off. Like, we already have this discussions before. So that is how I'm gonna vouch, I guess, with the social game of Tamara. But then I will go at the end part where I was voted out. I will give a point for Alex for telling me at the last minute that I'm sorry, I've tried my best, but the vote is you. Unlike Kat and Tamara, who have been really with me, I thought since day one, they said to me, together with Brian, you're good. So that's how I guess they fucked up their social game on me. With Tamara and Kath. That's just what the deal that I am having to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guilty as well for not necessarily like being incredibly kind to the people that I was voting out in certain spaces. However, like I thought Kat and like Tamara were with me until I saw Kat's crocodile tears on that tribal. Like when Kat went ahead and she like put her hands like this and was just like, I'm like, yeah, like she's voting me out. Like at that point, like I knew for sure. And that was why I was like trying to push Alex because I thought I still had Tamara. So I was like, if I can force a 4-4 tie, maybe this can go to rocks. So again, Tamara, to me, played much more of a strategic space in her social game where I had zero clue that she was voting me out. I had no idea. Where Kat, though, she can't hide it. So it was all over her face, sitting like this. And I was like, yeah, she's voting me out. So again, like, as far as socially, I agree with Esteban as maybe it's because we're jurors 1 and 2, like, you know, like that we're the people at the end here, like at the beginning of jury, where, you know, other than Amy and Theroux, right? Like we're talking about where the game really blew open. Mm-hmm. And then like the fact that, what was I going with this? Is that I agree with Esteban that there was a marked social shift by the two of them where one couldn't control like how they were hiding it, whereas Tamara, she legit hit it till the very last second and didn't even say anything about me going out, because I thought, Steve, she told me she was voting for you. So again,
I think to
game
speak on that vote specifically, I do think that she like had a last minute change. I think she wanted to vote for Steve, but then I think she switched at the last minute, if I'm remembering correctly, because we were nervous it was gonna be a 4-4, and because she wanted to hide her position of flipping a little bit. That was always a thing where Dave was gonna flip and Tamara was gonna stay with Canavar to kind of keep ears. So I think that was a lot of the reason why she was lying to you, Esteban, and to you, Jason. And I think on the Jason one specifically, I think she did change closer to the point of live night, because I think that Tamara probably did want Steve out in that round.
That's wild. I didn't know about the those trio chats with you, Esteban. That's awesome. That's a huge, like, I mean, I don't know. I know that's all pre-merge stuff, but it still just like speaks to the work that you both were doing in the game at that point.
I think it's interesting too that like Jason, you trusted Tamara with the information of the idol. Esteban, you trusted Tamara and had a lot of group chats with her. And when me, Malcolm, and Dave were forming the Cross Tribe Alliance on the thing, Dave picked Tamara to be the person to bring in from Canavar. So like, I think that speaks to her social game. Like each person, she was the person I trusted the most out of the people I hadn't met going into the merge. Like I think she did a great job.
Yeah. That's pretty great.
Hey, I don't know what happened. I'm back though. So are we still on social?
Yeah, we're talking about Tamara social.
Okay. So I feel like I had a pretty good-ish relationship with Tamara. I mean, we were never like close allies or anything, but what I respect about Tamara's game is she wasn't afraid to like be silly and be funny. And I think that humor can go a long way in these games. It can really make you feel close to someone. Like quirky personalities are so like you come to these games to want to get to know someone different. And I feel like Tamara checked a lot of boxes for at least me at the beginning of someone like I don't know that I'd ever interact with Tamara on a regular basis. And so socially I felt like she, she did what she needed to do in order to get into positions that she got. I'm curious on her own socially, like what she did that was separate from certain people. I'm very interested to see because a lot of what I felt like socially she was doing, I could almost attribute to people like Dave or even Kat to a weird pairing Pluto double moon degree of whatever Tamara Cat was. So I'm very interested to see socially like what sorts of things she kind of did on her own. Because after Dave left, I kind of didn't get a whole lot from her. And it's probably because she was thinking about voting me out next. But it's just very interesting that I felt like a lot of the social game that I experienced of Tamara came and went with Dave. But that's possibly something that I need to have her clarify. Because I think she's really funny. She's really sweet. And she has this really fun personality that just it's magnetic, it's attractive, and it's something that you want to like you're drawn into. It's not something that's like forced or anything. I do feel like she had a little bit of social faux pas where sometimes she said or didn't have thoughts that accidentally would give information away, at least to me. Like there was one night when me, Dave, Brian, and Tamara were calling, and we were talking about it. I think it was at 9 where we were talking about we have to cut the people who aren't in this group. And she listed 4 people off and then didn't list Kat. And I'm sitting there like, okay, so you just said you're basically everybody but Kat you're willing to cut. And it was just really interesting. And socially I just felt like there were these times where she would say something or slip up where I didn't feel the most confident in my like connection with her, and it affected how I played parts of this game. I think Dave can attribute to me going like, hey, by the way, is Tamara really with us? Like I just don't really get that sense based on the call we just had. And it's really interesting because I don't know, there were just these moments where there was this social disconnect. And so it was hard for me to progress, but it was one of those things where I felt obligated because of my relationship with Dave to continue keeping up social appearances with Tamara. And so that's one thing I'm going to need to see, because I feel like there are parts for me where I can say like, even though Alex and I played pretty close, like on the flip side, just to kind of counterpoint what you were saying, Steve, Alex reached out to me. And like I said, I've had a really close relationship socially with Alex. So that's where I am a little bit different, because he called me for like an hour and a half night one of the merge. So I can have that flip side conversation where it's like, Alex really invested in me and made me feel pretty good socially. And so then when the knife came at Final 5, he did what he needed to do. And I don't hold that against him. And I think it was a pretty stellar social game. But going back to Tamara, I don't know that I necessarily had that if Dave wasn't there. And so it's going to be really interesting to see socially what she did on her own, as opposed to what she did in tandem with Dave.
I
if
will
that makes
say
any
this,
sense.
as the other person in the Cross Tribe Alliance, I kind of felt the opposite. I felt very close to Tamara. Me and Tamara talked a lot. We would talk almost every night about strategy and social too. And she did a great job at making me feel safe with her outside of the relationship that I had with Dave. So I will say for me, I did not feel the same way in that alliance about Tamara.
And I think I expressed to you also, Brian, one-on-one of the times when Tamara and I did not have good social connection.
Yep.
So I feel like this isn't just a me saying, like there was a social disconnect between me and Tamara that I had that I don't know if she just chose me to have a social disconnect with, or if that's just because I was more relying on the relationship that I had with you and Dave at that point rather than me and Tamara. And so that's where good. I'm glad she had conversations with you. That's a point in her favor. It's just going to be interesting to see what was separate from Dave, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's very fair.
And she also like really good at throwing names to whom we can work with, because like I don't know, it seems like we were working a lot of times. Like at the merge, we're trying to connect with people of color, Thiru, Alex, me, and her. So we tried to work on that, and we built an alliance before I voted out for the POC. And then she also told me, why not we could work on with all the youngsters left, like Brian, Steve, I mean me and her. So I'm just gonna throw it to you guys because we built those alliances before I voted out, and maybe that will also credit her work at least.
That's really interesting. That's another like kind of like an enlightening point that I wasn't aware of, like that she was like kind of clocking like, oh, here are the young people. Let's try to everybody young people watch each other's backs. Like I think that's really sharp.
Yeah, I guess we talked about with Brian,
yeah.
right? Brian?
Yeah. And that's another thing about like that I will give credit to Tamara, like because I was in the same boat. Like Tamara's 23, I was 21. Everyone else in this merge was in their 30s and 40s. So like for her to have such a strong, I felt it was a strong social game.
Are
She had
you-
a connection with Dave, Jason.
You calling me old?
On.
Are you calling me old?
But yeah, I thought it was impressive that she was able to connect with people who were completely different from her in age and other things as well.
Do we want to jump over to talking about Kat? Does anyone do we want to say anything else about Tamara? I guess like in terms of like Kat's social game, like obviously like I feel like, you know, from the conversations that we've been having in the jury chat, I recognize that like, you know, people weren't the biggest Kat fans, and I feel like I had a really good social relationship with Kat, and like I guess it's hard to, you know, I'm curious to see what all of you say about her individual social game, because that's the things that I didn't see as closely. You know, I saw her connection with me and the conversations we were able to have. I felt like she you know, worked really good socially with me, and then made it seem like, with the exception of leaving Steve's chat, which is like just the big social game blunder, to just like directly cut yourself off from one person, I did feel like you know, she was present a lot. She wasn't the kind of player who was like, oh, this person was absent. You know, there's the grit of the social game of like always being willing to reach out to people and always being present to like get on calls and stuff. So I'm just curious how everyone else feels about Kat's social game, because I have no from my perspective, it was always like one of my best social relationships in the game.
Any of you guys know, like, was there a reason that she left my chat with me?
I can, yeah, the way it was described to me was that there was a little bit of confusion about the day off, and I know that people were still talking to each other on the day off. It was something where there was a little bit of confusion on the back and forth of like people respecting the day off or not respecting the day off. And I don't think it's so much that, because I know she was also talking to people on the day off. I think it's more like in the days after that, she needed a day off and she felt overwhelmed. And I think it really was that she just felt like you were playing like, I mean, you're a good player in that you continue pitching ideas to kind of everybody. Like that's one of your strengths as a player. And I think it just got overwhelming for her, and she kind of like felt like she needed to close off that wall because she didn't see a world where she was going to be able to believe your pitches, I guess. That's the read I got on it, is that she just directly like closed that rolling door to accepting pitches from you. I mean, it certainly wasn't a strategic decision, I don't think.
On my idea, I guess, is actually because that day off, actually, I told them about us debating Steve that time. Like you telling me some, you know, I told you like I kind of a little bit hurt with all those conversations that we have. And I told it to them. And then Brian, and you told me that Kat told you guys about my idol play.
I told Steve that you guys knew about the idol before it was played.
Yes, and I confronted her. Yeah, and I confronted her. Hey, Kat, Steve told me that you told him about my gameplay, my idol play, and whatsoever, and that made me like hit up. And also, she really freaked out that she got cut off by her lies, because she actually said, nope, I didn't tell them.
She did, though, just as a heads up. She told me that her and Jason, you told those two the day before. And so I was like, hell yeah, I'm going to tell Dave. I'm going to absolutely tell Dave.
I never told anyone with my idol play until the last minute. So she played as well there. And she went off your chat because she's actually that time already freaked out that I already know that she's kind of playing me around. So
gotcha.
that's what I'm understanding.
I just wanted to know if there was a reason. Like, I don't care what the reason was. It's just, please have some rhyme to this reason, because I don't understand it. So
I talked to Kat a little bit after that because I thought it was kind of bizarre you would leave a chat at, what was it, 7 that happened?
I think
around
early.
final 7
9.
at 9.
I was still
So
there.
I thought it was really weird, and so I reached out to Kat and we had a conversation. There are things I can't share because she asked me not to, but basically there was something going on that entailed an emergency, to the point where she had to step away from the game for a bit. And I'll let her say if you ask her that question, or if it comes up, I'll let her be the one to tell it, because I said I wouldn't say anything about it, and I'm trying to keep, one of my words this game. So I'm going to respect that boundary and just say that I think you were just a lot for her in that moment. And I don't know if that, I think that had a part to play in it. And I think I'm going to leave it at that. And I'll let y'all work out that weird beef afterwards.
I will say my relationship with Kat, I mean, we talked, like I definitely had calls with Kat and whatnot, but what I found interesting was I felt like a lot of our conversations had to do with how she was so mad at Jason for breaking their day one agreement and how she was so mad at Dave for whatever Dave broke his word about to Kat. Like, I felt she was always so mad about breaking her word, which is why I was like, all right, I got to lock in a deal with Kat. She doesn't break her word apparently. But then like at Final Four, me and her had a deal, and there was no reason to lie to me at that point. There was no more idols. I didn't have the immunity. And she, up until the last minute, she lied about and broke the deal at the last minute. So it's like for her to have so much of her game be, oh, this person broke the deal, so I cut them off. This person broke this deal, so I cut them off. It's like a little bit hypocritical, I felt.
I'm just going to say this and I'm going to leave it here. She literally told me when she got the clue for the idol from the scavenger hunt, she told me what the clue was. And then she went on this 3-hour ridiculous whatever it was about thinking that there was something in the code on pro boards that she was going to have to crack, that she was going to have to like break the internet in order to figure out where this idol was in the pro board by like writing code. Like, I was like, girl, you couldn't find an idol if it was staring you in the face. So just being clear, if she wants to like have this conversation about finding idols and breaking deals, I couldn't trust her with any information. So like the constant risk was that she was going to run and tell everybody what was up. So if she wants to be upset, like she needs to reflect on her own game about what she was telling other people and what was getting back. So like, I know that there was a conversation, Dave, like we had a conversation around like, I was talking down to her at one point that she was upset about. And I'm like, here's the deal. She like slipped up so many times pre-merge where it could have gotten her voted out, but I constantly went to bat for her. And I'll tell you, Megan can even attest to this later. And in the reunion, we can have this conversation. But all of my confessionals pre-merge were all about how am I ever going to rein Kat in? Because I couldn't tell her anything without it going somewhere and then bouncing right back.
I feel like there's an aspect of the game, and maybe this is like another reason of like my like I feel like there was an aspect of this game where I kind of often felt like, I mean, obviously on the swap it wasn't there, but it felt like there was always there was something about the Jason and the Kat of it all. Like, I feel like there was like an interesting, like, you guys clearly were aligned, but then we're also like kind of on edge with each other a lot and targeting each other at different points or having each other rub each other the wrong way. I don't know. Yeah, it's just like it was a very, I feel like my part of my experience of this game is going to feel like I'm always going to remember that world of like hearing Kat vent to me about you and hearing you vent to me about Kat and being like, oh, but I'm having fun with both of them. I don't know. I feel like that like code stuff is like one of the things that I like. I'll be curious how much, I think a big thing is going to be how self-aware she is of some of the things she did. Like, that's going to be a big tell in her final tribal council, because there are things that like, you know, like I said, like I told her about the 4-person group I had with Brian and Malkin, and she, like, from what I understand, I don't think she ever like leaked that to anybody and stuff like that. So there was like, you know, there was like an aspect of keeping some of that buttoned up and playing that well socially. But yeah, it's like obviously there were a lot of other social hiccups and hurdles that really worked against her social game. Rubbing people the wrong way is never a good way to play a game. Like getting on yours and Esteban's nerves as much as she did, like, is not a good social game.
I mean, I'm going to drop this as well. Like, and I'm going to make this front and center. She also had zero self-awareness about who she was playing with. She made a couple comments early on in the game. She said it to Alex, I believe, as well, where she was like, oh, like, she made that comment about crazy, right? Like, that his hair was crazy. And again, like, that shows a lack of social awareness when you're playing games like this. And ignorance is not always bliss. And you have to know when you have to, like, mind that. And Kat did not. And she didn't understand why Alex was so upset at first. She needed to be talked to about it.
And I'm not really a fan of Kat, but let's see. Maybe on the other side, her messiness gets her into the position where she at right now. Like, for example, I really wanted her to out early on the game because she's like messing up with the strength of our tribe. But Dave and Jason keep on protecting her. So maybe her messiness that might be part of her game, I guess, so that people will drag her till the end. Because, like, I am obsessed with her not in a nice way. Because, like, some of my like confessionals pre-merge are like 80% all about her too. And we have a lot of night conversation of Jason of trying to convince ourselves that we still need Kat. Because I wanted to vote her out earlier on the game, and Jason still said, no, we still need her. So probably that might work also with her messiness and that might convince other people to keep her. Because, like, I'm done with her since the first rounds of our game. Like, to the fact, like, she said that she's really good in puzzles, and we almost won the game. Only if she just have like even 10 minutes or 15 minutes, but she had 24 or 30 minutes of that game, of that puzzle. So maybe a little bit points for that, for the messiness and I don't want to say craziness, but the messiness of her social game.
What was it all strategy? Was it not? I guess we'll find out.
Or she's
Friday night at Final Tribal Council.
Only if you're gonna say that in front of me on the Final Tribal Council, maybe I will give her a point for that. Only if she is conscious.
Have to prove the intent, though.
Oh,
yeah.
So the thing
something.
about Kat, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I'm about to drive, and then I'm going to go on mute. You can talk all you want, Steve. Let me get my point out, please. So the thing for me about Kat, and it's the part that I don't know if I can forgive, even if she has good reasons for doing everything she did. She's a very sweet, like, game aside, she is probably one of the most sweetest, caring people I've met all game. She's so good to her friends. She's an empathizer. It's something I can relate to. Going back to game, she had these periods of time where she would ghost me for no reason. And it's part of what I don't know that I can forgive, because at least Tamara and Alex talked to me, even if they were lying to my face at specific points, which is fine. That's the game. That's what I signed up for, is to get lied to and voted out. And that's what happened. So the thing about Kat that I don't know that I can forgive is at least lie to me if you're gonna vote. Like, there's no point in pretending to be like, if you're gonna play the game socially. You don't need to ghost me for an entire day before tribal council if you're not planning on voting with me. And it happened at least twice in the merge, once at about final 10 when I had my little breakdown, and then once again when I got voted out at final 5. So it's one of those things where even if I can forgive some of the social things that she did, she didn't even bother to take the time to lie to me the day of tribal. And I would have rather she done that than just ghost me. And at least Tamara and Alex had the social gumption to at least lie to my face and pretend to give me hope at those times. Because even if they're voting me out, at least they talked to me. And I just don't know if that was part of her strategy, was just to not lie to people or whatever. But I feel like lying is better than ghosting. And that's the part that I don't know that I can forgive, even if she comes through and gives me some good points on her social game, which, to be fair, I have been shut down at a final three before where I didn't even get a chance to respond at the final three. That's how bitter people were with me and how I played the last game I played, which is something I've had to reflect on this game. And it wasn't fun, and it wasn't good. So I want to give her a platform to at least try to explain to me what she believes her game to be. And if something matches up or lines up, I could be more open, probably not, but I could at least entertain what she is saying. And I feel like that's going to be, I would just urge us not to shut people down before they've had a chance to like, at least say, you know, what do you think your blah, blah, blah was, or blah, 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 like just something at least, because they've made it. They've endured more days in this game than we have. We're all in the jury. And I think it's hard to get to a certain point. And maybe she realized she was outclassed at a certain point. And that's like, you know, at some point that is partially her fault, partially not her fault, but I at least want to give her the benefit of the doubt to say what she has to say to me. I don't know socially what she has above the other two. And I feel like lying is better than ghosting. But that's just how I feel. That's not to say that other people aren't valid in how they're feeling. And so that's the other thing is just, I hope people get like, at least ask her a question that she can answer to elaborate on the game she was playing. And then if she sinks her own ship, she sinks her own ship. If she has some valid points, I hope that we're at least willing, you know, to hear her out, even if we're not planning to vote for her. That's it. I'm going to drive home now.
I just put it in the chat, Malkin. I just put it in the chat. Make sure you ask Kat last, or you won't get your other questions in because she'll eat up all 10 minutes of your time.
So
Sorry.
I hear everything you're saying, Malcolm, about the like she has a social game. She was good with her friends and stuff like that. But that goes right back to the crocodile tears whenever she voted Jason out. Like, I don't know how much of it is actually genuine. Like, how much is actually genuine? And I hope you don't hate me on this. I don't plan on asking Kat a question. At this point, she's lost the privilege of talking to me. Like, I'm done with Kat. I wash my hands, walk away. If she wants to be friends after the game, I'm down with that. But
I mean, she left your chat, so I feel like that's valid.
Yeah, like game player Steve to game player Kat, we have nothing to talk about. And so like that's just where I'm at. If she wants to come after the game and talk to me, I'll have the conversation. I'll be friendly. I'll be nice. I don't hate Kat, but just in this particular game, we don't align. So like that's my only question is how genuine is her everything so far? Because I haven't seen any genuineness yet, type of thing. That's my whole problem with it. And like you were saying, like if you're going to, you know, like if you're going to lie, if you're going to do something, like don't just not talk, like play the game. So that's my end of the chat. I don't plan on asking Kat a question.
But speaking about crying, I just want to let you know also, like the day when Dave had those long messages, before that, Kat talked to me for more than an hour crying that she is really hurtful of voting Alex out. She rather vote Malcolm than Alex. I don't know if it's genuine because she's crying the entire hour. I don't know if she's crying for Alex or if she is crying pretending to be for Alex, but she's crying because she will vote for me that moment. I really don't know if Dave and I mean anyone talked to her already prior to that message, Dave. Did she talk to you about voting me out, or it will be for us?
Not, I mean, I basically, after I sent that message, I kind of checked out from the game for like 4 hours. And then, but I did, the first person I called with was Kat, because she had messaged me a couple times about wanting to talk. And it was probably after you had all talked.
Okay.
And she had in that conversation, I think at that point I had kind of come around to the idea of like, okay, I'm still going to be voting for Esteban here and doing what I said I was going to be doing. So she was aware of it then, but not earlier in the, I don't know what her conversations were like earlier in the day.
Because that's what I don't know. I just want to see if like Steve is talking about the genuineness of Kat. So I don't know if it's that crying is really genuine for Alex and whatsoever, because after that, Dave's long message, I chatted her. I was ghosted already until the moment that I was voted out. No conversation at all. So that was Kat.
shall we move on to the strategic portion?
Oh, let's do it.
Sorry, I'm typing something. Y'all done with social? Y'all going to strategic?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm gonna pick somebody for you guys first because it sounds like you're going in the same order each time. So I'm just gonna make you guys switch it up. So for strategic, we're gonna start with Kat.
Yes.
I'll at least say like the thing. Never mind. Somebody else talked. There was something one of you said that I was like, oh, I didn't realize Kat did that. There were like strategic choices that she made that even I wasn't aware of. I guess like it seemed like there were like it's the thing about the idol. Like apparently she decided to tell Steve that she'd known about it sooner, and what you're saying, Esteban, is that wasn't true. Yeah, so it's like I guess that's an interesting, whether it worked for her or didn't. It's like it's at least like an unexpected, like she wasn't doing and I think hopefully we'll discover in Final Tribal Council she'll be able to point to other things that were things where she's like, you took me at face value at every turn, but here are the things that I did that here are the things where I fudged the truth. Because I mean, that's one of the things that's like incredible about your game, Brian, is I feel like you're so good at telling a lie that's so couched in reality that like you're able to tell, like it's like your lies versus Steve's lies are like, you know what I mean? And I feel like if Kat was able to do some of that, that could be very interesting. Like I feel like she did that in some cases where she had like believable lies, but yeah, I guess she was, similar to Alex, kind of on the outside from the strategic choices through early merge and stuff like that, and was just kind of like following the flow of votes and stuff.
The one thing I can credit Kat for, I guess, strategically is like I did make a deal with her that involved me playing the idol on her. Not that she needed it, not that it really affected much of the outcome, but like she did lie to me. I kind of did believe her. I thought there was a good chance that she would like not vote for me. So like if that's like the one thing of Kat's game that I could see that was like somewhat strategically good. Like I believed her a little bit, at least. I thought there was a chance that she would vote with me at Final Four.
She also, from what I wasn't around for it, it feels like it's more of an Alex question or maybe even a Malcolm question. Like she said she did a lot of work during the day when I was on the plane. She said she did a lot of work to try to get the vote to split on you and me, Brian, so that there was the option to for that to happen. And I'm realizing after the fact I should have believed her, because that's me being an idiot, that I just like decided to believe your story more, that I still voted for Alex instead of voting for you there, because I didn't have the information of what she'd been doing. She just said like, I've talked to everybody, I put a lot of work into making sure that it's, definitely vote Brian. This is our best chance of you surviving. And like I'm just wondering how much of that was her own agency or how much she was like following others.
I think I'm pretty sure that there was a 3-person alliance between Alex, Kat, and Tamara. And I think that Tamara might have told the two of them that she was voting for me, and there was a second vote going on me. And they thought the vote was going to tie 2-2-2 because they thought I would vote Alex. Okay. That is my assumption of what happened on that vote, but I don't really know because Tamara lied to me like up until she had never told me, came clean to me about that vote. So
yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess that speaks to both Kat and Tamara's strategy. I guess that speaks to all of their strategy if that's how they, even though I screwed up that 2-2-2.
If you wanted me to like, I'll you asked for my opinion, so I'm going to give it. Kat did talk to me, of course, the night before Tribal, and then didn't talk to me during Tribal. Again, and I'm now remembering how this went, because so what happened the night before is Kat and I had a conversation, and it was very like her feeling bad about doing bad in the challenge because she was really upset about that night. And so I, whatever, she could be like, oh, I'm so sad about losing this challenge, and I'm just like, okay, this is my first community, but I'll grin and bear it. And we did that for about 55 minutes. And then at the very end of the conversation, she's like, so what are we thinking for tomorrow? And I'm like, I feel like there's a couple names on the table that are bigger, because obviously I figured she wouldn't say Tamara, and then I wouldn't say Alex. And so just naturally came down to, Dave and Brian. And she's the one who said those two names to me. I did not say those two names to her. I don't know how much was part of a conversation with someone else, if she really had that. I don't really know that aspect of it, but she at least told me the night before she was thinking about voting between Dave and Brian. And I don't know if that was just because that's who she thought she could sell to me, but she was like, those are the two threats left in the game. So she does have awareness of who the threats are and what to do about it. So I feel like she does have a strategic mind in there. And, when she was talking to me about Jason and Esteban going, she's like, yeah, I recognize that they'd have to go. It's like, there is a strategy to her brain. I don't know how active her strategy was, because I can attribute most moves to people that weren't her, because I feel like obviously it's going to be between Brian and Dave at that point, but she never told me how she was going to vote, and then proceeded not to talk to me the next day really about what she was doing. So it's hard for me to say she had a great strategic brain when I didn't get any information, but she was probably intentionally leaving me out. So it's hard for me to really comment, but she did tell me she was thinking between Brian and Dave, to answer your question, Dave.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, I guess that's the Cat strategy thoughts.
I'll just give some more points for Kat too. Maybe if this is a strategy or not. Maybe her excessive presence might be a strategy that people will use it to keep her. And also one strategy that I don't know if it's a strategy. We have a conversation, kind of our swap. Jason, Tamara, I and Kat. And then at the first part of that conversation, she talked about the alliance of you four, Dave. I don't know if it's a strategy that she's spill on it, that I was there and I'm not part of that strategy, because if it is a strategy, it really it bothers me. After that one, I doubted Jason right that moment, and also I doubted Tamara's loyalty at that moment. If she will own that one, then another point for her then, because she already ruined my trust a bit with Jason and Tamara. But when it comes to voting, if she have a strategy, she will always agree to what we ever are saying. So if we're gonna say Alex is a threat, yes, I get it. Yeah, he is a threat. Or no, it's Malcolm. Malcolm is a threat. Oh yeah, I believe Malcolm is a threat. That's how he played when it comes to voting. He will always curtail whatever we are telling her. I don't know if Dave and Jason would attest to that too.
I can wholeheartedly say, in the swap was the only time, like I said, she threw out names. Cause she literally was like Caitlyn. She did not like Caitlyn. So it was time for her. She needed to go. But I disagreed with it because I was like, she knew about my idol. So I was like, cool. She's already thrown out a name. And then she had that spat with Tyler. So it made it, again, easy to go ahead and but she was like, Tyler needs to go. It was, Kat ran the swap, to be very fair, with the exception of the Alex vote. The decision, where Esteban went and I were going back in, I was pushing for Alex to stay. Esteban wanted Alex to go. But other than that, it was, oh yeah, this person should go. Yeah. And she said everyone's name in this chat as a threat at some point or another. She and even the people that are still in the game. Oh yeah, Tamara's a threat. Oh yeah, Alex is a threat. Oh yeah, Esteban's a threat. She would just agree with whatever was thrown out. If I don't think that was strategy. Let me be clear. She's not a strategic mastermind in my eye. Period. Oh, you know what? One more thing. Let me drop this too, because Esteban, when she was on call, Dave, you were there when we were on call, and she went ahead and talked about the other alliance that Esteban wasn't in. Dave, were you there for that call? I'm trying to remember.
I think that was on the swap. I definitely heard about it afterwards, that she talked about it, and then that's how Esteban found out.
It was the four of us on call, and she literally was like, we need to, and it's recorded. Esteban is not present. And then she's with me and Tamara, she's like, oh yeah, we have to get in that other chat and go ahead and have a conversation about Esteban, blah, 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 blah. And it's a recorded conversation. Again, strategically, I don't know if there was a lot of awareness. I'm just gonna because that was messy too. Like it was messy physical, like messy social, messy. Like I'm not knocking her overall game because she's still sitting in the end, but like I can't like support messy. I can't do it.
Do we have any final comments on Kat's strategic game?
Just that Cat's an icon, and that I love Cat.
And I love Dave. Okay, so I'll pick the next person. What did you guys do? You guys did Alex first a lot before, so I will say Tamara. So now talk about Tamara's strategic game, and then Alex last.
I can't talk about the end game, but I will just say I had zero knowledge of any other chats that she was in beyond like where we were. So again, I felt like her strategic game in terms of setting herself up was solid. Like, because after hearing, as everyone else came into jury and hearing about Tamara, and what she had chats with Brian, she had chats with this person, she had chats with this person. Strategically, she knew probably most of the information that was happening post-merge, and at least from final 9 on, if we want to really say that, she knew where everybody was going. She knew.
I feel like Tamara. Oh, sorry, Brian. I didn't.
Oh,
mean to
you
cut
go
you
ahead first, Steve. You go ahead.
Okay, I was just saying, I think Tamara played a fantastic strategic game, especially with her being so young. Like Brian and Tamara, to me, played the two best games, and they're the two youngest people on the entire freaking cast, kind of thing. Like they absolutely killed it. Tamara, I don't feel like she necessarily ever intended on playing with me, so I didn't get to see a lot of her strategic game. But in talking to people afterwards in the jury and stuff like that, like I have a whole new respect for Tamara's strategic game. I think playing up the, I don't mean this in a bad way, but playing up the dumb, I don't really know what's going on. I feel like that was a huge part on her. I feel like she's so much smarter than she's letting on. Like I feel like Tamara is actually a force, and I kind of hope we get a little bit of the unmasking on Friday night type of thing. And so like that's kind of what I'm hoping for with her. Sorry, go ahead, Brian.
No, yeah, that is exactly like my experience with Tamara strategically. Like I feel like one of the first times I talked to her was on a group chat call with David Malkin probably, and she was like, or wherever it was in tribal council when she's answering her questions, wherever it is, and she puts on that she has that little show that she does. But then I call her one-on-one, and then we get into the strategy talk. It's like a whole different person. She like has an amazing strategic mind, like talking as if that was like a completely different person, which was very impressive to me. And I think that she did a good job at like hiding that, because I remember even Steve was like, what is this girl like? What is she doing? Does she like, is she even playing the game? Like, and then I was like, well, I had a conversation with her last night, and she's definitely playing the game, I'll tell you that. So I think she played a really good job strategically, and I think her voting me at the final 6 tribal council was a really good move. But I think she did a great job strategically overall.
I just hope she has the self-awareness to own that in her final tribal. If she owns that, and literally like that was the plan the whole time, like, girl, do you. Like, I'm gonna sit there and like get the popcorn, and I'm just gonna sit and eat it up, just like we all did all season. Let's be
Yeah, I'm very curious how much, because I think we all noticed like in tribal councils, when she would get the question, it was always like, okay, we're ready for this comedy that's going to come out. You know, like when she would get the question, she was so amazing at like, but it always felt like a character, you know, like I think there is a sense there where maybe she was a little, I couldn't tell if it was because she was nervous from being on the spot that she would kind of like speak in like a parable kind of thing. And like, I'm really hoping that at final tribal council, she isn't nervous and she's able to like speak towards her game and like and own it and stuff. Because I think like, you know, I mean, we've talked a bit about, you know, I think a key strategic move for her, at least to make sure she was in this good spot with Kat, was kind of, you know, when you told Esteban and Tamara about your idol, Jason, she told Kat that, I guess, you know, shortly after that. So like before, while you guys were still on the swap tribe, Tamara told Kat about it, and that kind of was able to start to like drive that wet, you know, give Kat that distance from yourself, and that like clearly played to her benefit, because she was always protecting Kat through the merge, and like like, you know, and I'm sure it was always part of her end game to be sitting there with Kat at the end. And like, you know, so she set up that relationship pre-merge, that she was somebody that Kat could rely on for the real info, that kind of took her all the way to that point. So, and yeah, just others. I mean, she was a part of the two kind of cross-tribal alliances, but wasn't like, never let herself be the like visible driving force of either of them, you know. Yeah, I just think she played a really solid, like, she let her social game kind of put her in these places where she could make really smart, subtle, strategic choices that did not let her stick out and fall to any of our fates.
I just would like to also give her the credit because I'm here and she's there about our game when it comes to pre-merge and swap. Because like most of the time, I don't know, I thought you, Dave, and Tamara are really close and like talking about like pre-merge. But then on my end, maybe just what I knew about us is that we have been talking already merge numbers when we are voting out people at the pre-merge. So that is where we are ahead of, like, even choosing it's either Jason or Kat or Dave before the swap. We already are onto that like strategic thoughts already when it comes to voting people out. Like even aligning ourselves to those people who will be voting out or voted out, like Anthony and Alfie. And when Alfie and Jason fight like before the merge, like because like Alfie is throwing Jason's name and Tamara and I said, let's try to tell Jason about Alfie and let's try to talk about Alfie to Jason. And that's how how it happened. So I'm sorry about that, Jason. But we are already talking about those things at the pre-merge. The only thing that I can say also strategically, because he or she might use me as the shield of what we are doing. That's why I am like on the front of doing things, and then I am the one who is targeted with how we work. And maybe after merge, it twisted it a bit with Brian and with Dave, because she already knew when I maybe possibly when I won the first immunity challenge, she already knew that I am the target, and she just walked away a bit away from me because she knew that I might be gone sooner. So that's really actually a strategic game. And like also merge time when we decided to like talk with Brian for an alliance, and also with Thiru, hopefully with Thiru and Alex for a People of Color alliance. That is also our plan. So I also give that credit to her. That might give her an advantage with that one.
So it's fun hearing about all these different things that Tamara has been in. Did she? I'm just morbidly curious. How many of those chats did she actually make, out of curiosity, or did she let other people do her work for her? I guess I'm just curious if she's the one who made the chats or if other people made the chats. And I'm just, if anyone remembers anything, because I know she didn't make the baddies chat. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, she didn't make anything on Canavar. Nope.
With the four trio alliance that we have actually strategically planned that it is not the two of us who will make the alliance.
Okay.
So that's maybe a strategy too.
That's going to be something I'm going to need to see awareness of then in her final tribal council, because a lot of what I saw of Tamara's game, I feel like I can attribute to other people's ideas that she latched onto. Maybe that's a bad perception on my part, and I'm really interested strategically. And my question to her specifically is going to be about how she views the game strategically and what she feels strategically she did best. That's my one concern at this point, is I'm just trying to figure out how much, because I feel like, Brian, you said you had good strategic chats with her, which is great. I'm just curious what she specifically did solo. And that's my one question. But I have to give credit where credit's due. And clearly she's the last baddie standing, so she clearly knew what she was doing in that particular group chat. So I can't fault her for doing things that got her farther in the game. I'm just curious strategically what she did versus what other people did that she did with them, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, she's the ultimate person at figuring out which grass is the greenest type of thing. It's just, what exactly did she do about it on her own end? Because like, absolutely, if I started on the other tribe, like Dave would have been somebody that I would have absolutely tried to latch onto. I'm glad I tried to work with Brian. Like she's seen the exact same things. Like they're good players. They're going to go out before her type of thing. And so like, yeah, she grabbed on. I just want to know that there was more to it than that.
Yeah, I think because I think a big part of her game is probably positioning. Like she was probably positioned the best like throughout the whole game. Like her name was never really a target. And when her name was ever written down, it was a unanimous vote with her getting one vote in the last two tribals. But I think her game was that like personally, when I go into a game, I have the goal of like I don't want to make really any chats. So like I know that was brought up, but like I came into this game, I was like, I'm not making any chats. Like I want people to invite me to the alliances. Like I don't want to be the one making the alliances. So like I don't really fault her for that. And I think that she was positioned well where she knew she was in the Baddies Alliance. She had OG Canavar. She had relationships spread out. And then I think she knew like at a certain point, I don't know this for sure, but I expect her to explain that she intended to, at the end, cut Dave, cut me, cut Malkin, and it worked. Like if that was her plan, it worked to a T. And I would credit her a lot for that, for being aware I was added into this alliance as the fourth person, and it was because it was created on the swap tribe. But if she was aware of that from the jump and she always had intended on cutting us, like I would give props for that.
Isn't that just Survivor 101 type of thing? Like
You say
take
yes
the
to
big
everything.
yeah, say yes to everything and then cut the big threats at the end. Like, and then you're sitting there at final three, which is a genius strategy. I mean, but it's just, was there more to it than just that?
But do you think like when it comes to jury management, because we thought that we are really this close and her lying until the end, do you think is a good strategy and a good jury management if you are me?
For me, it doesn't bother me if someone lies to me, especially at the point of your vote, Dave had released that clue and no one really knew for sure if there was a merge idol or not. And I don't know. I personally, I don't tell the person I'm voting them out typically in Survivor. So like, I wouldn't fault anyone for that, like for not really telling, because that's like, I think we all lied about who we were voting at times this season. So like,
especially if idols are in play.
Yeah, I've gotten
I liked it better than whatever Kat did.
Yeah, exactly. Kat would just be nothing.
It's easy
Strategically, it was like, at least she lied to me. By she, I mean Tamara at least lied to me and had the sense to make me think she was really voting for Alex at Final Five. And I don't think I believed it, but at least she tried.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, because one ghosted me, one lied to me, and one told me the truth. That's the three of them. So that's cool. Yeah.
The ghost, the liar, and the honest one.
Well, I mean, I had two liars and a ghoster, so I can't share your experience, Esteban.
Alrighty, are we done with Tamara, or do we have final comments on Tamara's strategic game?
I feel like I'm so excited. I just want to say in general, and this is like a note to kind of everyone's strategic game, but like I'm excited how this jury roundtable so far has been a little revelatory for me in terms of like corners of people's games that I wasn't aware of before, especially Tamara's. And like I'm, hoping tomorrow is that too, where like there's even more we get to discover about their games in the process of the final tribal council. Not tomorrow, Friday.
Awesome. We love Dave. You're so nice. So finally for strategic, we'll do Alex, and then we'll be done with talking about like the three parts of the games. But then I have one more thing for you guys after, so don't leave immediately after you're done, Alex. But yes, Alex's strategic game. Go ahead.
So I'll get the ball rolling and then other people can chime in. I actually think there's a lot of strategy to what Alex did this game. And that's one of the things that I actually thought he did pretty well, but maybe that's just a me thing. And because I've had so many talks with him at this point, I don't know if that's the same shared experience, and he's going to have to expand on his own strategy this game if he wants to win, because obviously I can't sit here and fight because, for him when I don't know if he was strategically the best player. What I will say that he did very well strategically is he read the room like it was no one's business. And I don't know if he did that every single round because I didn't play every single round with him. But so for example, I'm going to start with the Joel vote. So on the Joel vote, Steve came up with this plan to have 6 people, including Alex, split the vote. Well, Alex read the room when no one was talking to him that he was not on top of an alliance, and he wasn't. He was 6th in that grouping. I feel like the other 5 of us were working pretty closely together on the original tribe, and he was kind of just brought in as the last minute. But, you know, no one really included him in anything. And that was something that I had a conversation with him that I don't know that a lot of people had a conversation with him with. And he read the room really well to the point where he was like, well, if they're not going to include me, I'm not going to do that. So he tried to do something different in voting for Tiru that round, which if Joelle actually had her vote would have worked, and Tiru would have gone home instead of Joelle because of how the split worked out. But because Joelle didn't have a vote, she couldn't vote Tiru, it tied, and on the revote, we sent Joelle home. So I feel like there's strategic intent behind a lot of what Alex does. And even though it might not seem like he's the most strategic because he's not the one pushing the name or whatever, he was very happy to let me do a lot of the lifting and then cut me when it strategically benefited him to cut me. So it's one of those things where I see the strategy behind what Alex is doing. And to a certain degree, it was kind of what I was trying to do this game. I just feel like he did it a little bit better than I did. Was it a perfect strategic game? I don't think he had the best leverage at times to do every single little thing that he wanted to do, but he at least had the gumption to go against what Brian's best interest would be at times, if we're going to think about strategically like that. And that's something that he and I talked about in depth a lot, was because he thought I was in Brian's pocket, which Brian and I have talked, and I would have voted Brian out at 4. He knows that. But I shared that with Alex, and that was the first time where Alex was like, okay, I have the cards with what I'm working with and figuring out how to make that all work for him. So I feel like maybe he didn't push his agenda or his plans all that often, and I'm hoping he steps up to the plate and really shows that he actually did have intent and strategy behind what he was doing. But I saw his strategic plan, and I thought it was pretty brilliant, at least because that I felt like that was kind of a similar game to what I was trying to do, was what he did, but a little bit better, because obviously he's in the finals and I'm not. So
I just want to piggyback off what you said real quick. I told Alex, though, that Joel didn't have a vote. Now, whether he believed me or not, I'm not sure. But coming from my point of view, like, I had been very, very clear on Joel doesn't have a vote. So we are splitting votes here. Nothing can happen. Like, even if somebody flips, we're still good. So I don't understand why he would vote to the minority. Like, that's my biggest hiccup with Alex's game, is it felt like he voted into the minority and then was sat there like, well, what am I going to do now? And then he got swapped to the other tribe, and then he was just the best person over there on that tribe. And then whenever it merged, we just kind of really couldn't cut him because it was 6-5. And then we didn't know what was going on with, I didn't know what was going on with the Cross Tribe Alliance. But it feels like, I don't know that you did anything at all, like, actually. And so, like, I don't get me wrong, I love Alex. So I actually enjoy talking to Alex a lot. But it's just that move of voting into the minority when he knew Joel didn't have the vote didn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, he chose Joel over Tyler, but that was the only thing he accomplished on that. So maybe he was trying to bring Tyler in, but I don't know.
Yeah, I will agree on that one. I thought the first vote was like a terrible strategic move for him, because like it wasn't even that he voted in minority, it was that like he straight up lied, like, to me pretty hardcore. He lied to Steve pretty hardcore. He did, and he did the same to Caitlin and Malkin. And after that vote, like, if we had gone back to tribal, I would have pushed heavily for Alex to be the one to go there. Whether it would have worked or not, obviously we would not know. But like, whereas if he didn't do that, he would have been like he would have skated to the next phase of the game without a worry. Whereas the swap came at the perfect time to kind of save him, I felt. And then at the merge, I felt that he, for example, on the final 7 vote, he had expressed that he wanted Dave to go over Steve. Couldn't make it happen. At the final 8 vote, at the final 9 vote, he wanted to vote for Dave instead of Esteban. And at the final 8 vote, he wanted to vote for Dave instead of Jason. And all 3 of those times, what he expressed his concerns and tried to pull it off, and he couldn't make it happen any of those times. So that's kind of why strategic, I'm like, okay, well, every time he tried something at the merge up until the final 5, he couldn't make it happen. So it's like, how, I don't know. I don't see anything strategically that he did that worked out for him the whole game. So like I need him to show me what he planned and what worked out. Because for my opinion, he tried a few things, and each time he tried something, it failed.
I'm shocked to hear this. I'm so hurt. I feel like I feel like I didn't really get much of, I mean, we obviously were on different kind of sides of the game as much as we tried to talk to each other. He did have a good like strategic pitch with me, which is like, I feel like we're in the same boat. We're the person coming into merge that only doesn't know each other, you know, like he was really good about strategically kind of finding those ins with people. I think he did that really well. That may be more to his social game than his strategic game, but he did like, you know, those kind of blend together a lot. Your social choices informing your strategy and stuff. But I feel like the most I saw of his strategy was when like he would be trying to vote for me and then I wouldn't hear from him. And then when we would talk after the vote, he would be like, hey, sorry, I was just worried it was going to be me. That's why I didn't really like reach out about the vote. Sorry. Like it was a lot of like, I don't know. But yeah, I guess I mean, I didn't work as closely with him as the Sihine side did. So it's just hard for me to speak on that.
I mean, how many times did Alex say the phrase, if the wheel happens to land on me, so be it, right? Like, I feel like that was kind of like his go-to. And like, what else was there in terms of strategy where maybe that's just an extension of the touchy subjects, like 0 out of 58 questions or whatever it was. But like did he have a good read strategically on this game? Right. And even like I had to convince him, and Esteban, you know this, when Tyler threw all of us into the chat, right, to go ahead and vote for Alex. And like we were planning a 2-2-2 split just in case the idol was with one of them. And like I had to go to Alex and say to him, like literally, Alex, you need to vote Tyler or you are going home. Like, I don't know if necessarily, again, there was a strategic awareness because he literally looked at me like, what? Like, how is that possible? Like, you know, to quote Ralph Wiggum, right? Me fail English, that's impossible, right? But like the look on his face was just like shock and surprise. And then he luckily like listened and like voted with us. Otherwise, Alex would have gone home in this because Tyler was going to outplay him and outwit him in that space. So strategically, like, where was Alex?
Yeah, same thing. I don't really get any like strategic. Basically like he filled all of his bucket with the social skills, I mean social games. But when it comes to strategic, I guess he really lacks out of, I mean, on that part of him. Like if she is kind of strategic too, she is like in the middle of Sahin and Kanavar. I would take that opportunity to sway my votes back and forth for me to be able to, you know, manage my position in the middle still. But then when we had given him the chance to vote with us, I mean, especially Jason and Kat, like insisting and like pushing her, like vote with us, even if you already knew that where the idol is at. But if he just played with us, maybe we could definitely say, hey, oh, he already like with us at that moment. So that is also like should be a strategic game for him. So, but he didn't do it. He didn't did any of it.
I feel like Alex definitely relied on his social game a lot. I feel like Tamara definitely relied on her strategic game and Kat 100% on the physical. So, like, sorry.
Did you say cat on the physical? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going back to physical. I wanted to be sure.
I just wanted to make a joke.
I heard you correctly.
I just wanted to make a joke.
So indeed, this is a three-way vote: physical, social, and strategic game. It's
Which
so
one
hard.
do you value more?
Fun final 3 though. It's very exciting.
It is a really fun final three. Like I really am proud of all three of them.
Yeah. I'm excited to see. Yeah, I'm just like I'm ready for it. I'm very excited to be able to witness this final tribal council.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Were you guys done with the strategic stuff? I'm currently arguing with Jeremy about pizza.
Valid.
Yeah, I think we're done.
Done.
Like I'm literally just here yelling at him, like, what do you not understand? Anyway, so I apologize. But the last thing I wanted from you guys before we got off the recording and just kind of hung out or did whatever you want to do, is final thing. You can share if you want or not. I'm not going to require each juror to say this, but I'm going to go through each of the three finalists, and I just want you to tell me what you need from them or what you are looking to hear them explain at final tribal council in order to give you, you know, the chance of considering voting for them. So what kind of things do you want to hear from them? Hopefully this will help guide your questions, because as you're saying it out loud, you think, oh, maybe I can ask that as a question because that's what I need to hear from them, kind of thing. So we'll start with Alex for that, and anyone who wants to share their thoughts on this can jump in.
I just need to know that Alex wasn't just a dead fish, I guess, more than anything, for me to have a real shot at considering him for the vote. I just feel like I need to know, okay, I did this, this, and this wouldn't have happened if I didn't do this. Like, I just feel like I need something for Alex for me to actually consider it.
For me, what I need from Alex is I think I almost need the reverse, where I kind of want him to own the dead fish strategy, because I feel like if he tries to take credit, because I don't think I would give him credit for a single vote off this season. So if he starts taking credit for moves, I think that's where he goes wrong. He really needs to own the Sandra, anyone but me. Like, I was in survival mode and I did what I needed to do to survive, and X, Y, and Z was what I did to make that happen.
I think for me, I'm gonna leave strategy out of it. I feel like there's something to knowing what your strengths are, and so for me, I want to know how he views what a great social game is, because it's not just about getting to know people. It's not just about, you know, my partner is singing in the background. Try not to laugh right now. Sorry. So what I need to know from him is what is a great social game, and I want to hear his definition of it and how he actively played into that, because I feel like that's where strategy can come from knowing what a great social game is and how to use that to your advantage. So I need to know, for me personally, that it wasn't just about social, it was how he used that social, and I think that's going to be what's going to really help his case for me, because I'm truly torn right now. I don't like, even though I've been like really pro Alex a good chunk of this call, I could vote for Tamara or Alex at this point. I have no idea who I'm voting.
Yeah, I think that's really, like, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like similarly, it's just like kind of like a self-awareness thing and being able to acknowledge, like, I feel like there's a chance that like Alex is going to have the best final tribal council performance, because I feel like he does have that social prowess, and like he's a, you know, has a performance background, and like he's going to have a very like he's going to be very entertaining, and it's like being able to see past the flash and be able to, like, you know, him actually just speaking and, you know, articulating what his strengths are in his game, and being able to really, and hopefully surprise us too, because I feel like there's, you know, leaving where I did, I feel like there's a lot of stuff that I didn't see or had no idea what he was doing, so I'm excited to kind of find out what else he was doing that I wasn't aware of.
All right. For me, I guess this goes with the three of them, because I do believe on the final tribal council, I always thought that this is a storytelling competition at the final tribal council. So I just go with the three things for them to work on: the awareness, ownership, and conviction of their story. That's it.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Ownership and accountability for the moves that you made. And like, if you can articulate what strategies you spearheaded, because I think with this final three, I think we're all sitting here going, what did they do? In terms of like, what moves did they actually because it seems like a lot of the people that were playing strategically were all sitting here. Like we're going, this was the name, this was the name, this was the name, this was the name. And there was a lot of, oh, if the wheel lands on me, or, oh yeah, they're a threat, or some random comment. So like, for me, it comes down to ownership, accountability, and what moves did you make without the help of anyone that's sitting over here.
Did everybody go for Alex? I'm so sorry, I missed a couple people. Awesome. So, and I know some people did like some generalized ones, but what do you all need to hear from Kat? What do you need her to explain for you to consider giving her your vote? And anyone who wants to share can go ahead.
I guess for me, Kat, I think I would need like she would need to really rip off the mask and like own the wolf in sheep's clothing strategy, I guess. And if that was her intention, to come off as someone who can get drugged to the end. I don't think it was her intention, but if that was, and she did all these things to make it happen, then I'll open my mind up to that, I guess.
I also, though, don't want her to live in a delusions of grandeur or space where she thinks she played this amazing game.
Right.
And if she does think that, she needs to sell it. But I don't know if she's capable of doing that. But I think for Kat, like, she needs to show that she can use economy of language, because I'm going to tune out after several minutes of this is what I did, so, and this is so, and this, so, like, I just not gonna, like, the rambling. She needs to have clear, coherent thoughts that document her story for me to even be on that planet.
Yeah, that's really, like, economy of language is a really good point to bring up. Like, it's going to be interesting. Like, I think that's I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm going to be considering voting for Kat the whole time, but like, I don't know what I feel like it's going to be, I don't know. I feel like it's hard for me to articulate what exactly I would need her to say or do differently, or how she could screw up. I think it is just like, if she can lean towards articulating her game and just kind of owning her game, like the same kind of generalizations we've been saying.
If she could finish her storytelling in a minute without subbing, I will vote for her.
So if I'm going to consider voting for Kat, I basically need to have my mind blown, and not in the way she thinks that my mind needs to get blown. I need to have my perception of this game like totally blown out of the water. Like, if she can come in and just wow me with like the actual game she has, because I'm so confused on what her game is at this point, that I would need to have a coherent, like everyone else is saying, a coherent narrative. But also, I feel like I need something that wasn't just I let other people do everything and then I just voted right at the last two votes or whatever. I feel like I need her to like do some, like, because I feel like anything that I can say she did, Alex or Tamara did better. And so it's hard for me to sit here and say I would honestly vote for Kat at this point, because currently I am open to hearing her out. I don't know that that's going to change how I feel, because I can't attribute anything to mind-blowingly amazing gameplay. And so I need my mind blown if I'm going to even consider voting for her.
Kat don't get my vote. Like, period.
I worry that she could fall into the trap of like focusing too much on her pre-merge game, and like she needs to like know her audience and be able to be pitching to the jury that's there.
Yeah, because if the only thing she's able to articulate is Caitlin and Tyler, I don't think that works.
Well, I mean, there's 5 Saheen members on the jury versus 3 Canavar.
Okay. Any final comments for Kat there on that? Okay, and then finally, tell me what you need to hear from Tamara to consider giving her your vote on Friday night.
I want her to stop being poetic. I want her to go straight ahead of what she did on this game. I'm done with how she's really great and a sweetheart for all of us. Now it's time to put her game face mode on and tell us what she really did. That's it. Because like she is not already hidden now with Esteban, with Brian, with Jason, with David, all the people that she used for her to be where she is now. So it's time for her to do things for herself.
So before I like, based off of just this conversation, based off of my own thoughts, based off of all of this stuff, Tamara's the way I'm leaning towards voting type of thing. So if she comes in there and she owns her vote, she will probably get mine. If she comes in and tries to play the Buffalo Wild Wings, let me tell you a poem kind of thing, then I'm going to have a really hard time sitting on that one and not going towards Alex on that.
Yeah, she needs to not she needs to be ready for a final tribal council and really just like, do what needs to be done in a final tribal council, because I think she has the game that backs up she has the game that we can see that backs up a winning, a potentially winning game. She just has to be able to talk about it in a way that she just has to do that last step of selling it.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I think that as long as she comes to final tribal council with her game face on and explaining all the things that I at least think that she was doing, and as long as my perspective isn't proven wrong during final tribal, I could see myself voting for her.
So I think for me, for Tamara, so similar to how I want Alex to define what a great social game is, I need her to define what a great strategic game is, and be able to show something she did that embodies what she thinks a great strategic game is. And it's sort of similar to what you all are saying, but it's one of those things where I just need to I need to hear something that isn't the great strategic game is slay. Ha 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 ha. Like I can't listen to her say slay 50 more times in an explanation of what a great strategic game is. And that's my one hold up with her right now, is I need to see that game awareness. And once I see it, I can be sold to voting for her. And I'm totally open to voting for her. I'm truly torn because I do not know who's going to have the better explanation of the two of them.
Okay, any final thoughts for Tamara there? We're all good, feeling like we have an idea of what we want to ask on Friday. Before we get into details and logistics, I'll stop the recording before I do all that. But John did say he had something for y'all.
Thing before we end the recording. I'm so sorry, Megan.
Oh, I'm not ending the recording just yet because I think John had something like game related. Was it, or was it?
No, mine was more logistics. Just make sure that you guys can talk about like who is going to ask what, so that way you're all not asking the same damn question.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you want to be creative with your questions. Have fun with it. Just no crossing the lines, no being completely inappropriate or assholes to the final three. Because if you were there, you wouldn't want them to do the same. So.
Yes. And sorry, Malcolm, you said sorry to me on the recording.
I just want to say one more thing before we end the recording, because I want to get like a couple final, like just quick generic final thoughts.
Yes.
I think it is incredible that I am sitting in a game right now where the entire final panel is made up of women and people of color. And I think it's such a testament to how far that orgs have come in just representation and dynamic personalities. That I'm excited to see what happens tomorrow. I don't know who I'm voting for, and I live in a world where I get to vote for a person of color or a woman to win this game. I could not be more thrilled.
Yes, slay. Thank you, Malcolm. Sorry. I had to put that in there. So all of you stay on for just a minute after the recording, but this part doesn't need to be recorded. But thank you for participating in the roundtable tonight. You were like, honestly, probably the best roundtable we've had in all 4 seasons. All the other 3 seasons can suck my dick. But you guys were great. You guys were very respectful. You guys let each other talk, and you guys had great points about all 3 finalists. So I'm really excited to see what you ask them on Friday. But yes, hold on just a moment.